Welcome to the future of understanding. This is NeuroMind Insights, where we unlock the power of your mind.
You know the exact physical sensation of making a public, humiliating mistake. Your chest tightens, heat rushes to your face, and your nervous system practically screams at you to panic. We naturally use these intense physical feelings to justify subsequent actions, snapping at a colleague or making impulsive choices, treating the chemical reaction as the sole decision maker for our behavior. Take a look at this graph tracking the lifespan of a biological emotion. When triggered, your brain releases a flood of chemicals that physically course through you, but they are completely flushed out in exactly 90 seconds. Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor documented this 90-second neurological mechanism through her research at Harvard University. Because the biological emotion dies in a minute and a half, a prolonged bad day is actually a psychological loop sustained by the stories we tell ourselves to keep the chemical circuit running. In the minutes following a mistake, a distinct paranoia sets in. You feel entirely paralyzed, convinced that every single person in the room is actively judging your flaw. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect, a psychological illusion where we vastly overestimate how much others notice our actions and appearance. Research at Cornell University proved this by asking students to wear embarrassing t-shirts into crowded rooms. The wearers assumed the entire room noticed, but outside observers barely registered their appearance. Recognizing the spotlight effect is profoundly liberating. That perceived judgment is generated entirely within your own mind, freeing you from an imaginary jury. Fast forward to 3 a.m. Your brain is now replaying the mistake on an endless loop, a state of mental quicksand known as rumination. Attempting to simply stop thinking about the event actually reinforces and strengthens the neural pathway, keeping the memory active. To break the cycle, you can use the 5-3-1 technique to manually hijack your brain's attention. By naming 5 things you see and moving to a new location, you force the visual cortex to redirect resources away from the loop. Once you disrupt the physical cycle, you have to address the internal dialogue that directly fuels the chemical response. Researchers at Michigan State University suggest a linguistic shift, third-person self-talk. This involves referring to yourself by your own name rather than the pronoun I. This tiny shift creates psychological distance, forcing brain activity out of the emotional limbic system and into the rational prefrontal cortex. Treating yourself as a third-party friend neutralizes the spiral and grants you immediate access to your own objective wisdom. By the next morning, cognitive reframing helps evaluate the gap between what you expected and what actually occurred, preventing catastrophic thinking from taking hold. To maintain accuracy, we use mental contrasting. This pairs positive visualization with deliberate obstacle anticipation. On the right, the vector arrow branches into if-then logic gates that route around potential setbacks. This allows you to map out exactly what specific actions you will take when the expected obstacles inevitably arrive. Strategic pessimism makes you unstoppable because you have prepared for the reality of setbacks rather than relying on pure optimism. These psychological tools help navigate a single day, but they also scale to help us endure months or years of unavoidable hardship. Admiral Jim Stockdale survived over 7 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam by applying a specific mental framework. Known as the Stockdale Paradox, it requires holding unwavering faith in eventual victory while simultaneously confronting the brutal facts of your current reality. This paradox acts as a safeguard against crushing despair. While the blind optimists lost heart when their false timelines failed, the paradox provides a sustainable framework for enduring uncertainty. Building an emotional first aid kit, a personalized collection of multisensory tools, is a task that must be completed during calm periods. A brain in active crisis is chemically incapable of making reasonable decisions, requiring a pre-installed emotional operating system to take over. Designed systems quietly outperform willpower, especially when your stress response is at its peak. Nassim Taleb pioneered the concept of antifragility, where a system actively benefits and grows from shocks and disorder. Psychological antifragility works much like muscle tissue, requiring calculated, voluntary discomfort and stress to grow stronger. Every setback serves as the specific mechanism required to forge lasting resilience.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Neuromind Insights for more.